Hello and welcome to New Junction. So a few weeks ago I was asked if I wanted to try some of the Tasma Scenics range, and I thought I'm not going to pass upon that opportunity. So they asked me to select a few items from the range, I should say, to see if I can add it to the layout and see what I think of it. So today's the day. The box of goodies has arrived, and what I'm going to be doing is slowly trying to spruce up my small farmhouse on the side of the layout here. So here goes. So Tasma themselves do an absolute endless list of scenic bits, or so I found out. The ones I've gone for, hopefully I can use in and around my layout, particularly around the farmhouse you've just seen. So I'll show you briefly what came in the box. First of all, I've got some dry leaf branches. It's actually 50 in there. I don't need that many, but that's a very good pack size. I've got some runner beans for a hopefully for a small sort of veg patch. Some pumpkins. Nice pack of tulips. Hopefully we can use those. You can't beat good old sunflowers. Same again, you get loads in the pack. And then lastly, some hay bales. Now, as you know, I already have some of the dried out hay bales. Ignore the 221 on my heritage line. We're not there yet. But as you can see, fresh cut hay bales would be green rather than the dried out colour, so these will make a nice addition. Right, so the first thing I'm going to address is the vegetable patch, which will feature two beds, one for the runner beans and one for the pumpkin patch. So I was going to make the pumpkin patch raised and then the runner beans based on the ground. So the first job is to clear the scene of any excess stuff, so all the horses, the bits of scenery, etc., they're going to come out, and then I'll get on with the preparing of the soil. So the first thing I want to do roughly here is create my pumpkin patch. Now I wanted a bit of order to it, so what I've done is I've cut myself out a nice little cardboard frame here, which fits nicely there. So what I'll do now is, of course, with my normal PVA glue mix, which is, as you can see, quite runny, I'll fill in the square and then sprinkle some soil on the top, and hopefully it'll keep to its rough rectangle, and then when I take that off it'll look like it's been a maintained sort of bit of garden that someone would be looking after, rather than just a wild bit of scenery. So here goes. And there we go, just like that we've got a lovely soil square. Now I'm just taking out all the bits which are just slightly too big, particularly for double O. Normally I'd sieve it, but I didn't want too fine, as the base of the scene itself is on super fine soil, so I wanted it to be ever so slightly different. Next I'm going to take my saved crate of spare leaves, which I've used in previous videos. This is just when I cover a bush or a tree, etc. This is just the mixed scatter left over. So I'm just going to take a bit of that and add it in, and any that gets stuck in any bits of glue, so be it. Just helps blend it in a bit more. And I think we're ready for the pumpkins. So as you can see, the kits themselves, you get far too many, which is always a good thing. Now they come apart into small sections. I'm not going to be able to do this now without ripping them all out. There we go. So as you can see, they come as small clumps like this. So onto the actual vegetable patch itself, you can see the clump. It might be difficult to see that pretty much takes up the bulk of it. So what I'm going to be doing is sticking this one down with all its leaves, but actually taking some more of the pumpkins from the other ones in the kit, just cutting them off and then placing them in, just so my farmer can have a bit better crop this year. So for the runner beans, and to save the farmer's back, I'm going to try and do a raised flower bed this time, and I'm going to be using coffee stirrers, and I'm literally just going to cut these down. Here's one I made earlier. I've got 4 walls which will be glued in at the back and then filled in with soil, and then hopefully raised enough, and then we'll have some runner beans on them. And as you can see, they're quite tall, and they have a lovely spike on the bottom, so they should fit firmly in. I'll try and get 3 or 4 in there. So the first process, once I've cut the coffee stirrer down, is I need to dig out a small trench. I'm going to use the back end of a brush, just along in a sort of rectangle formation, and then using rocket card glue, because I want it to dry very quickly, I'm going to place in the framing, and then hopefully that'll leave me with a nice rectangle I can then fill with some soil. And there it is, the framing for my raised flower bed. What I'm going to do now is let that dry for 15 or so minutes, and I'm going to get on putting the other scenics around the layout. So moving over to the house, you're not likely to get veg patches here, but mainly a bit more flowers, especially being in the countryside. So I've gone and opened the tulip box. If we can focus on that, so you can see they're very tiny, and they've got probably track pin size stems to them. So nice and easy. I'm actually going to use my track pin drill just to put them in bunches around the farmhouse here, and then dip them in the PVA mix I made earlier and just lightly place them in. And hopefully that should bring the scene to life a bit more. And there we go. As you can see, the tulips are now in. I've tried to bulk them up in their colours. I've also placed a lone sunflower outside the house. Now, just with those couple of clumps of tulips, I've used probably 13 of them. Now, the sunflower, I've only used 1, but I think the pack contains 20 or 25 odd. So I'm forever cursed to be having a sunflower outside every farmhouse I ever build now, because I've got so many in the bits box. Right, now it's back over to the raised runner bean bed, and we'll see how we're getting on. Right, so the 4 edges are now touch dry, and they are roughly solid. They're not completely dry. What I'm going to do now is lightly fill the base with soil. I'm not going to put glue down first, so I've got my sieve. I'm just going to try and fill it in. I've not sieved the soil today because, like I said earlier, I want to try and create a different texture. I'm just going to lightly fill this in. You could, of course, paint the wooden coffee stirrers, should you want to give it a bit more of a weathered or aged appearance, but this is new Junction after all, so it's a new flower bed, fresh timbers. Right, now that's ooh, massive stone. Now that's roughly half full. I'm going to coat this with a layer of PVA. This is again my watered down mix. This will go everywhere, but don't forget it does dry clear. I am going to cover this over with more soil in a second. And before it all runs away with me, I'm going to put the top layer on. Doesn't matter if soil gets everywhere because it is, I suppose, meant to be outside. And now what I'm going to do is take my Tasma runner beans and place them in. Now they do have a little spike to them. That's going to be too long for what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to snip off the bottom. So as you can see, it's probably just perfect touching the baseboard, but if I take a bit off, it gives me some manoeuvrability. I'm going to snip that in half. There we go. And as with the tulips, I'm just going to dip the end in my PVA glue mix and then place it in. Hopefully that'll stand up. I'm just going to repeat this 3 more times and we'll see how it looks. And there we are. Now I'm just going to let that dry very nicely, and then I suppose the farmer can enjoy some beans. So going over to the sheep pen, they've got away quite lightly today, until now. So what I'm going to be doing here is taking the dry leaves, or the dead branches that they were, and placing those against the back wall, so just here. So you don't really need any glue for something so big. It's not going to move. Oh, everything else is though. Just going to place that in there, and then grab another one. Trying to make it look like something without looking like a sort of dead spider on the layout. Ooh, there we go. I'll have a rejiggle that in a minute. So that's the first one. The next one, now I've got some of the green bales. So traditionally there'd only ever be green bales if it was silage for cows rather than green hay. But what I'm going to do is, because I'm no expert in animal husbandry, what I'm going to do is just lay these with my sheep. So same as before, jot of glue down, and then we'll place the bale on top. Just like that. And there we go. They get some attention as well. So there we are, a super wide angle shot of the scene. You've got your new pumpkin patch, runner beans, the various tulips dotted around, the sunflower, the bales and the dry leaves in the back there. What I'll do is I'll end this as normal with a small video montage of close-ups just so you can have a look, and I'll also be putting some photos on the New Junction Facebook page. Link will be in the description below. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Hattons, believe it or not, for arranging this for me. They've sent me these out just to have a look at. I wouldn't say it's more of a review because you can't really, I wouldn't say you can really go wrong, or Tasma Scenics haven't gone wrong, and it's well worth having a look at their range because they're all pocket money. The link, of course, for the entire range will be in the description below, so make sure you check that out. But as ever, thank you very much for watching. Friday's video should be on the canopy, so a bit more of the layout progress for you. So thank you as ever, guys. Take care. Bye.